In his darkly lit study, Jim, the grandfather, filled the stillness by running his clocks. As he ran his fingers over the borders of an old family picture of Joannah, who was 5 years old at the time, sitting on his knee and smiling without her front teeth, he could still hear the laughter. But when she walked down the aisle today, clutching the hand of another, the little girl had vanished. As Joannah joyfully rubbed the lace of her dress in front of the mirror in her childhood bedroom, Jessa teased her about her first dance. Wedding preparations had the Duggar home on high alert, and outside the study, one could constantly hear the joyful voices of the sisters as they assisted Joannah in putting on her bridal gown, as well as the aroma of freshly baked vanilla cake and fragrant flowers. From across the hall, the smaller Duggar children gazed in awe as Jana adjusted her veil. "You look gorgeous," Jan said as she ironed out a bump in the garment. To all my fellow VVE viewers, I hope you'll all join me in giving this video a thumbs up. Joannah grinned, but it remains insincere. As soon as I say, I do, Jessie gives her a nice push, and Dad looks like he's about to cry. Joannah found herself laughing all morning long, however she knew in her heart that it wasn't funny. Something was odd about Jim Bob. She had anticipated opposition when they announced their engagement, and he had shown reluctance and awkwardness when wooing her. Bob stood at the foot of the stairs and watched as his wife Michelle gave the smaller children some last-minute instructions before they went upstairs. Even though it should have been a happy sound, the ladies laughing and the rustling of silk and lace, it just served to remind him of how much had changed. When Michelle saw his scowl, she went over to talk to him. She said, "It's a happy day, Jim Bob," and he gently patted the nape of his neck before letting out a breath. "Dear Michelle, I understand that, but it's challenging since things are different now." She reached out and patted his arm while Michelle said, "The problem is that she's not a little girl anymore." The ceremony started in hushed tones as soon as Joannah, who had Jim Bob's arm, came at the entrance. Everyone in the room rose up. Her happiness shone through as she shone brightly. In contrast, Jim Bob walked slowly, as if he were stalling the passage of time, and he relinquished a part of his heart with each stride toward the altar. He looked across at her as they entered the front portion. "Are you sure about this?" Joannah half-jokingly asked, her grin betraying her hope that he would mutter, "I've never felt such absolute certainty before." Even though his tiny kid was not present, the reception was filled with joy and song. As he took a step back, his throat constricted, and a sudden ache shot through his chest as he eagerly took her hand in his anxious embrace. As his children gathered around him to dance and celebrate the latest Duggar marriage, Jim Bob stood on the sidelines, hardly moving a finger with a glass of punch in his hand. As Joannah and her husband danced for the first time, his gaze strayed to them, and Jessa trailed after. "Do you not realize how delighted she is?" A curious Jessa leaned down and prodded his arm. He attempted to put on a smile and said, "Dad, are you okay?" With a sigh, Jim Bob said, "That's not the point. It seems like I'm losing a little bit of our family every time one of you gets married." As I survey the house, Jinger, who had been standing on the sidelines, approaches me, "Dad, seeing your product expand into a larger market may be more motivating than the prospect of losing something." The idea unsettled Jim Bob, so he remained silent. All he could feel was emptiness right now, but he wanted to believe it was real. Joannah saw Jim Bob standing by the front entry, gazing at the family photo on the wall, as the newlyweds were ready to leave later that evening. She hesitated before she went up to him. "Father?" As he turned to face you, she nodded in agreement. His eyes were kind but weary. "Certainly. A brief. I am starting something new, and I will not leave you while you're hurting. I simply want you to know that." Feeling a lump in his throat, Jim Bob swallowed. I know. Joannah came up and gave him a firm embrace. For a moment, she was his little daughter again. That was all he could manage to say, despite his overwhelming want to go into detail. But Jim Bob had an epiphany as she and her husband retreated from the room, declaring, "This time, I'm not coming back." On top of that, January is almost over, but winter is on its way, along with the common cold and flu. The long-awaited wedding of Johannah Duggar is finally here. With much Duggar-style preparation, Johannah's path to the altar has been filled with joy and expectation, being the 10th child in the renowned Duggar family. Everyone from Johanna's numerous siblings to Jim, Bob, and Michelle is ecstatic as she embarks on a new chapter of her life, adorned with a beautiful gown, a brilliant smile, and the love and support of her family. Family and friends have been following Johannah and her now fiancé, insert groom's name, closely ever since they announced their engagement. Johannah was cautious about jumping into a relationship before she was emotionally and mentally prepared, in contrast to her elder siblings. She considers the gifts of love, family, and religion as she approaches marriage. The wedding is an extravagant Duggar affair in every sense of the word. Stunning flower arrangements, glittering lights, and delicate lace accents, Johannah's particular touch, adorn the setting, which is the family's home church in Arkansas. There will be traditional elements like religious songs, sincere vows, and a reception with home-cooked food and Duggar-style entertainment. Remarkably, Jim Bob Duggar, who is sometimes seen as the intermediary in Duggar relationships, is ecstatic about Johannah's nuptials. Johannah seems to have his complete blessing on her path, in contrast to his careful monitoring or public criticism of his other children's relationships. Johannah has always been a special girl, strong-willed, kind, and full of energy, Jim Bob remembers. It has been a blessing from on high to see her meet a guy who is devoted to God and who believes as we do. His feelings are mirrored by Michelle Duggar, who emphasizes the bittersweetness of seeing another daughter leave the home. Experiencing the joy of Johannah's upcoming marriage, which is marked by a strong faith, brings an extra layer of emotion to an already emotional wedding. There is no wedding dress more stunning than Johannah's. Elegantly tailored, it showcases her taste in modest but fashionable silhouettes, detailed lacework, and a long train. Johanna, Jinger, Jessa, Jana, and the younger Duggar daughters are all serving as her bridesmaids, and they all look lovely in their pastel wedding dresses, which go well with the overall theme. Everyone in the sanctuary becomes silent as Johannah makes her way down the aisle. As Jim Bob proudly accompanies his daughter, a mixture of nostalgia and pride shows on his face, and the room is filled with real emotion. Taking Johannah's hand and beginning their new life together, the proud groom stands at the altar, his face a mask of joy. A large-scale family reunion is an essential part of each Duggar wedding. The wedding has grown into a highly anticipated get-together due to the dispersed nature of the siblings. Even though there have been rifts in the family in the past, Jill and Derek Dillard show up, and Jeremy and Jinger Vuolo have flown in from Los Angeles with their kids. Johannah Duggar is also a hot topic as fans are wondering whether, in light of the ongoing romance rumors, she will be attending the event alone or with a plus one. This is a real family reunion since Johanna and Austin Forsyth bring their expanding family, and even some of the less famous Duggar siblings show up. Following the touching ceremony, the celebration will begin with traditional Duggar fare, music, and plenty of laughing. Southern staples like fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and handmade buns are served up during a mouth-watering home-cooked feast. The event revolves on a towering wedding cake that has been decorated with intricate flower patterns. In front of their loved ones, Johannah and her fiancé perform their first dance, a touching ritual that marks the beginning of their married life. The event culminates with a sparkler send-off as the younger Duggar children delight the audience with playful acts. Everyone is curious about what the future holds for Johannah and her husband as they get ready to go on their honeymoon. Are they planning to stay in Arkansas, close to her family, or are they going on an exciting new adventure somewhere else? Will Johannah immediately follow in the footsteps of her very conventional Duggar family and establish a family, or will she forge her own path? She has a bright future ahead of her, and her family is there to support and encourage her no matter what. As the sun goes down, the whole Duggar family thinks back on another wonderful celebration of faith and love. The wedding of Johannah serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring traditions, principles, and familial ties that have characterized the Duggar lineage, in addition to being a significant event in her own right. Johannah Duggar's wedding was a stunning beginning to her happily ever after, with Jim Bob really joyful, Michelle crying but proud, and siblings jubilant. The event will be remembered for years to come.